Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your magical witch boys. Wait, what? Who wrote this? Let's try again. We are your supreme sorcerer hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC, and this is the show where we cast powerful review spells on all the anime series from the previous season we did and didn't watch start to finish. We already had a double dip of witchcraft in episode 23 of our show with Strike Witches and Izetta, but since they are more popular than ever, here we are again with another double dose of magic and sorcery. First I'll take a look at the unusual team-up of an all-powerful but not very world-savvy witch and her bestial bodyguard in Grimoire of Zero. And then John is gonna wrap up the show with the new smash hit from Studio Trigger and the lovable scams from Little Witch Academia. So stay tuned. We will quickly grab our flying brooms and be right back. One of the main protagonists in Grimoire of Zero, I have a really big problem pronouncing that word for some reason. Anyway, one of the main protagonists is a mercenary. Not your run-of-the-mill sellsword though. He's a beast fallen. Half human, half tiger, he is cursed to walk the earth as a feared and hated creature who wants nothing more than to be a normal human being and become the cook in his own tavern. Out of the blue, his dream becomes tangible when he runs into the witch Zero. Zero is on the search for a powerful book she wrote on magic, the titular Grimoire of Zero. You see, magic is a rare thing in this world. Most witches use sorcery, but the concept of magic that Zero came up with and wrote down in her book is much more efficient and powerful. So basically a leap forward in witchcraft that would make every witch who can wield it a dangerous force to be reckoned with. So obviously Zero doesn't want it to fall into the wrong hands, and since it's been, taken from her, she wants to get it back. Problem is she has spent most of her life sheltered in a cave and knows pretty much nothing about the outside world. So when she runs into the mercenary, she promises him to turn him into a normal human being if he helps her find her home and, plays her bodyguard on the way, protects her and everything. And even though the mercenary is very reluctant at first, because, witches usually kill Beast Fallen to gain their power, he eventually agrees to the contract, and both of them, later joined by the young witch boy Albus, embark on a journey that hurls them into a brewing conflict between humans and witches. They encounter more Beast Fallen on the way, and eventually an old acquaintance of Zero who plays his own dangerous game behind the scenes. So yeah, this fantasy series is based on a light novel by Kakeru Kobashiri, illustrated by Yoshinori Shizuma. And there's also a manga adaptation, which is illustrated by Takashi Iwasaki. I don't know if there are any big differences between the light novel and the manga and what the anime is directly based on, or if it's an amalgamation of both. But both the light novel and the manga are still running, so there's that. The anime is produced by White Fox, which are probably most well known for the anime adaptation of Steins Gate, a series I haven't watched. John, have you seen that?
Here's the thing about Steins Gate. I had been holding off on watching it because I have the game and I've kind of dipped my toe into the game, but eventually it's something I want to get to.
Okay. I have heard good things about the show. I've listened to the Easy Anime podcast for, that talks about that show in specific, which was kind of a bad idea because they spoiled one of the major plot points, which I didn't expect.
Whoops.
But oh well. It still sounds interesting. I might still watch it. It sounds like a cool time travel show, and I'm always up for that. But I've seen 3 of White Fox's other produced shows, namely the first one being Jormungand, which was about this young lady weapon stealer and had kind of a Black Lagoonish feel to it. Definitely not as good, but I enjoyed it. Then the second one being Akame ga Kill, which, is like this really dark fantasy anime with lots of blood and people killing each other. This assassination guild. It revels a bit too much in its, edgelord attitude and aesthetics, but just like Jormungand, it had great action scenes, and I liked it for what it was. And the last series, The Devil is a Part-Timer,
Hey.
which was a pretty unique comedy slice of life show where an evil demon lord and his posse come to our world and have to learn how to work normal low income jobs to pay their rent. I loved that show, and it
was pretty great.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and I'd be up for a second season of that, but sadly there seems to be nothing on the horizon. But the original light novel and manga adaptation, or at least one manga adaptation, are still running for that as well. So who knows? Seriously, White Fox, get on that shit. So yeah, good studio, responsible for some really cool series. Not too outstanding when it comes to actual animation quality, but decent base level with some great highs, especially, on the fight scenes in Akamega Kill, for example. Grimoire of Zero seems a bit of a lower budget. I mean, the backdrops and character designs are nice. I like that the Beast Fallen don't have to humanized or anime-esque prettied up faces and designs. It keeps the series from drifting into uncomfortable furry territory. It actually feels more like something Disney would have cooked up back in the day, design-wise. Or at least that's what it reminded me of, albeit a lot darker in tone and everything. But yeah, design-wise, it's got much more of a cartoony vibe than I expected, and I appreciated that. The director, Naoto Hosoda, worked on Shuffle, which I've only heard of in passing. I think that's like a romantic comedy drama thing.
Yeah, I've heard of that, but I've never seen it or played it.
Yeah, like I said, me neither. The other thing, he's probably famous for his Future Diary, Mirai Nikki, which apparently is somewhat of a wild trash fest. If I remember correctly. But he was also the director for the previously mentioned Devil is a Part-Timer, which, I and John can attest to doing really good work on that show at least, so there's that. When it comes to Grimoire of Zero, the direction is pretty standard. There's nothing really that stood out to me. The fight scenes are right, but a bit generic, so nothing to really write home about. It doesn't look bad, but it's still a bit by the book, so to speak, just, in general direction and everything. When it comes to the story, Grimoire of Zero is a bit of a mixed bag. Actually, it reminded me a bit, or even a lot, of another show we both watched, and that is Chaika the Coffin Princess. Yeah.
I mean, you say that, and that's kind of both good and bad.
Yeah, exactly. That's a thing, and pretty much in the same way. There are some similarities. Both have an interesting trio of main characters. I think we both like the main characters of Chaika quite a lot. The fantasy world they live in is pretty cool. There are some neat setups and mysteries, but both shows suffer pretty much the same fate in that the conflict and payoff in the final act are not all that surprising or interesting. They also share a weak antagonist. I don't even remember the final bad guy in Chaika, to be honest. But
Isn't it just... Yeah, I'm trying to recall too, and that's pretty tough.
I think that says a lot, right?
Yeah.
And the one in Grimoire of Zero is just incredibly bland. They try to build him up a bit as this kind of menacing, powerful puppet master who has a somewhat interesting connection with Zero, but they don't really do anything with that in the long run. And he has this constant deadpan expression on his face, he barely emotes at all. And it doesn't make him cool or anything or mysterious. He's just boring most of the time. The way he talks, the way he, looks, the way he reacts to things is just... He's just there. He's just so, okay. I don't know. He didn't get on my nerves or everything. He's just man, he's boring. So while I liked some of the smaller stories and arcs in the personal character arcs in the show, and the smaller, closed off, episode-long stories, the big central conflict and the players participating in it, aside from our main characters, left me pretty cold. So that's kind of a shame. Because, the show starts off pretty promising, and where might this go? And at the end, I don't know. It's kind of nothing. I wouldn't mind seeing a second season of the show, though, because I really liked some of the characters, especially our main duo, Zero and the Mercenary, whose name we still haven't learned by the end of the season, by the way.
What?
Yeah, he's just going by Mercenary all the time. That's what Zero calls him all the time. I forgot the Japanese expression. But yeah, she just calls him Mercenary. He calls himself Mercenary all the time. So yeah, we haven't heard his name yet. I don't know if his name has been revealed in the light novels to this point. If it is of any significance at all. I don't know. But yeah, I just love their dynamic. They're starting off with, him really not wanting to engage with her, aside from being her bodyguard. Even though she's nice to him and everything, Zero is generally a really nice person, but he has a lot of baggage due to being a beast fallen since childhood, and he's made some bad experiences with humans and witches. And, he's an outcast and everything. And yeah, so far witches have only tried to kill him, and vice versa. He's killed some witches, so he is expecting Zero to betray him eventually. But then they slowly warm up to each other, still dishing out enough jabs here and there to keep the comedy going and yanking each other's chains and everything, but building up a level of trust and becoming friends eventually. So yeah, that's pretty cool. It's just nice to see how these become like a cool team and a force to be reckoned with. And there is a bit of, your usual romance teases and setups in there, but they are mostly played for laughs, thankfully, because Zero is, it's mostly because Zero is not accustomed to living in the outside world and how to behave normally and everything. So you got your typical awkward scenes where she acts, not according to society standards and everything, and the Mercenary is embarrassed by her and, doesn't know what to do with her and everything. And yeah, it's all played for laughs. And I'm glad that it stays more a friendship and equal, like, I protect you, you protect me relationship, because that really works for those characters. And also, if they had gone the other way, it would have been kind of awkward and weird, because he looks like a tiger and she looks like a child, even though she's supposed to be really old. It's anime, what you gonna do? It's your typical stuff. I think they're a great team, and an unusual one at that. And I would like to see them go on more adventures together. I also love the ending animation where Zero tries to sneak up on the sleeping Mercenary to lie on his chest because it's warm and fuzzy, and he chases her away angrily 2 times, and then at the very end he, just gives up and begrudgingly lets her sleep. It's adorable. I really like that. One of my favorite endings this season. Another great character is Hold'em, which he starts off as a bit of a cocky villain type character, like a bit roguish, but kind of an asshole too. He's this arrogant wolf beast fallen who clashes with the Mercenary several times. But I could already tell, like, from the opening, that he would play a different role eventually, that he would switch side and everything, because he's featured prominently in the opening, and it doesn't seem like, he's, hey, I'm the main asshole guy who, who's, I don't know, henchman of the main baddie or something. No. And we see his character turn around later in the series, and he's also has an interesting relation to another important character. And he's just plain fun. He and the Mercenary have some great exchanges and repertoire and comedic bits together. Yeah, if there's ever a second season, I hope we get to see him as well again. I don't know about that because, like I said, he's pretty much tied to another character in the show whose arc is kind of wrapped up by the end of the season. The season kind of leaves on, the Mercenary and Zero embarking on their journey together, just as 2 characters and everything. So I don't know if we'll see some of the other characters again, if there even is a second season. I don't know how successful the show was.
I mean, it looks like it got some pretty good ratings, so apparently, maybe it'll come back for another season. Guess we'll find out. I just want to comment that I got a little confused as to this show's identity when it was first starting to air, because White Fox has worked on another very similarly titled show called ReZero. I mean, similarly titled if you look at the full Japanese name, because both of them have the phrase Zero Kara Hajimeru in them. And I was like, wait, are these 2 related? Are they not? And, upon investigation, apparently, no, that is not the case. But just the same, it just sort of baffled me at first for whatever reason.
Well, it's a less, I don't know, heavy offender than the Seven Deadly Sins Funkel,
Yeah.
because those shows, even in the English translation, sound almost exactly the same. While in Japanese, they pretty much, except for one word, sound the same.
One was like Seven Deadly Sins, and then the other was Seven Mortal Sins. It's like, wow, okay.
Yeah, or one was Sin, Nanatsu no Taizai, and the other one was just Nanatsu no Taizai. And yeah, it's and at least in the English translation, Grimoire 0 and ReZero are,
They are
able to tell them
distinct.
apart. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, so there's that. I haven't watched ReZero, so I don't know if those two shows share any common ground. I mean, one is an isekai show, and the other is just your plain standard fantasy stuff with some beast men.
Isn't that weird? A light novel that's not an isekai story?
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't say that because that's a pretty mean blanket statement, but it seems to be the rising trend.
Yeah, sure. We'll see how many we'll get. Pretty sure we'll get to talk about a lot of isekai shows at the end of this one.
Yeah.
So yeah, more stuff to come of that, but we'll see. But yeah, not really much more to add. This was bound to be a short review because there's not that much substance to Grimoire of Zero. It's a neat but flawed fantasy series with some pretty cool characters, but the first story arc is just kind of a letdown. The pacing is a bit slow in parts, and it's kind of hard to recommend it. I'd say check out the first episode. If the characters are clicking with you enough, that maybe will get you through the series. At least that's what kept me going. If there's a second season, I hope we'll get a much more interesting main plot with some actual twists and turns and maybe a bit less standard for action scenes. I don't know where the light novels or the manga are going because I haven't read any of that, but maybe there's some interesting stuff in the future. We'll see. So far, definitely not a bad show, but a lot of room for improvement.
So, the other show on the docket for today is Little Witch Academia. Pretty much the big darling of one of the past few seasons, a show that I believe that both of us were very much looking forward to.
Yeah, a lot of people are still looking forward to it because apparently only 12 episodes are on Netflix right now, if I'm not mistaken.
I think, they put up the first 13, and I think over the past couple days they put up the other 12. So,
wow.
If you've been waiting, those extra 4 to 6 months to watch Little Witch Academia, and you have Netflix and you didn't decide to go other routes to watch it, now you can.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel like a filthy pirate. Yar.
Didn't even get a dub for the Netflix release?
It did get a dub, and it's not great.
All right. That took a turn in another direction than I expected.
I don't like to shit. I think both of us prefer subs over dubs, but I can appreciate a good dub. And I watched a little bit of the first episode of Little Witch dubbed, and maybe it gets better later on, but from the first few minutes of the first episode, it certainly was not ringing true.
I don't think I've liked any English anime dub that I listened to, except Bakano. I thought Bakano was pretty fun in English, and I think I haven't listened to too many others.
I think
just because it's a style of dub that is English anime dubs have a specific style to them. I don't know if it's because of the translation or the way the the actors are directed in anime dubs, but it's so wildly different from what the English dubs I'm used to when watching original American cartoons like Batman the Animated Series or other superhero stuff like Spectacular Spider-Man. It just has such a different feel to it in terms of pronunciation, intonation. It just feels a lot more artificial to me, and that just doesn't work for me. So I don't know.
Every studio is going to do it differently, and every actor obviously is going to have their own style. But if I could pull one fantastic dub out of just off the top of my head, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, everyone loves Cowboy Bebop. I have not listened to that. To be fair, I've not listened to that in English. That probably just
Really?
in terms. Yeah, well, like I said, it just I listened to it in German when I watched the show the first time, and then I watched it in Japanese, or the other way around. I don't know, but yeah.
I think that was one of the first times that I heard Stephen Bloom. And he is fantastic as Spike. And so is the rest of the cast, but his performance is pretty standout.
Yeah. So I've heard like Cowboy Bebop is the go-to English dub for like everyone likes that dub. So maybe I should give it a chance one of these days. And I think the setting works very well because this is more of like an, I don't know, international setting.
Yeah.
I've heard the English dub for Black Lagoon is also pretty good, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not familiar with that one.
I might check that out too. I guess in general, when the setting is more westernized, then maybe an English dub works better. But I'm kind of just I'm so not capacity when it comes to English dubs. That's all I'm saying basically. I have basically not listened to any English dubs for anime because I've checked out very few, and I'm just not that fond of them because it's not my native language. That's all. I know. Neither is Japanese, but those is that's the original language the shows were produced in, and that just feels different.
I think the other big prevalent dub, probably here in the West, is the entirety of Dragon Ball.
Yeah. And I listened to that, and boy, did I not like that.
I don't dislike it, but the problem is, it was handed around so much, and there was some licensing, like back in its early days when it was airing over here, where it was like, oh, you get to the part where Goku beat up Raccoon, yeah, we're gonna get to see him fight Berter and Jason. Oh no, we're going back to the beginning.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It wasn't until it switched from, I believe the studio was the Ocean Group, and Funimation licensed it, and it finally started to move forward after that. When Funimation first picked it up, it was really rough around the edges, but what mattered to me was we got to see something that was new. What the hell's a Super Saiyan? Oh! But over time, and over the fact that Jesus Christ, they've redubbed Dragon Ball probably at least 3 times at this point, and it's kind of gone through its growing pains, and I feel like it's become more solid as time has gone on.
Yeah, and I guess, like I said, it's probably a thing if if that language is your native language, you're also more prone to like those, that specific dub as well. It's not like I'm like, man, subs only, always. Like, I'm not one of those people, like, super weeaboos who's like, the Japanese is the only language. No, if a dub is well done, if it's my native language, maybe that's just the thing. Maybe that's... Or maybe it's just a style about American anime dubs that I don't like. I can't really put a finger on it. But I like enough German dubs, a lot more than other, friends of mine who watch anime as well and who are like, no, they're only shitty German dubs. Like, no, that's not true. And, there are probably enough people in America who say they're only shitty American dubs.
Yeah.
Who've actually to listen more than I did. And I won't tell that I'm just saying that I don't listen to them or don't watch English dubs because they don't give me anything over the Japanese ones.
I'm a curious sort.
Yeah,
and
that's good.
And I feel like dubs have been not on a sharp decline, but on enough of a one to be like, they're not as prevalent anymore. So when, a show that I watched and enjoyed gets a dub. I like to, be like, oh, let's check it out, see how they interpreted, X, Y, and Z sort of thing.
Since Funimation took took over in terms of producing most of the dubs these days, quality-wise, it has become a lot better.
It's become more consistent, yeah.
Yeah, sadly, for my country, this is complete turnaround because we had the good dubs back in the day when Dragon Ball Z came out over here and Cowboy Bebop was released on TV and stuff, and now it's just every dub I'm trying to listen to is just garbage. It's super bad. Yeah, there's not any money there anymore and not put into that, and it's a shame. Well, at least I got 3 of my favorite series of all anime series of all time, Wolf's Rain, Cowboy Bebop, and Black Lagoon, got pretty fantastic German dub, so at least I can't complain in that regard. So did any of the shows besides Cowboy Bebop that you really enjoy get really good English dubs, in your opinion?
I mean, the amount of dubs that I've watched since after that has, sharply declined. So I kind of feel like it's tough to make that judgment call. Like, I mean, I've watched clips here and there of some shows. Like, even though I was lukewarm on Love Live Sunshine as a whole, the dub is actually kind of pretty funny. It's pretty good. It's about as emotive as the original Japanese. So, they got that right. So.
Yeah, cool. Man, that was a giant ass tangent. we should, but no, I didn't want to restrict that or break that off. I thought that was an interesting discussion. Anyway, let's get back to the review of Little Witch Academia.
Little Witch what? Oh, right, that. We're talking about that.
That little show.
Yeah, I guess it's a little show.
That was not intentional. My puns are usually worse.
I try. For our listeners out there, I try to only make the top quality dad jokes.
Yeah, sure.
So anyway, Little Witch Academia is Studio Trigger's latest offering, but it's also not their first tour of duty with Little Witch, which I think is worth talking about later on.
Yes.
So Little Witch Academia. It's basically a story in a world where magic is kind of on the decline in the present day, but the story focuses on this young lady named Atsuko Kagari, call her Akko, and she's determined to reignite her own love for magic and, to spread her love to everyone in the world by following in the footsteps of her idol, Shiny Chariot. The problem is that Akko has 0 aptitude for using magic. And on the way to her first day at the Luna Nova Academy, which is, like the last bastion of teaching traditional magic in
Hogwarts,
the world.
To be fair.
Yeah, pretty much. Hogwarts minus the sorting hat.
Yeah.
On her way to Luna Nova, Akko meets her future roommates, Latte and Susie, and they kind of get into a bit of a sticky wicket. In the process of trying to get out of trouble, Akko happens upon this artifact called the Shiny Rod, which once belonged to Chariot, and she somehow awakens its power, if only briefly, to ward off this monster that is chasing the 3 of them. And, seeing that, this rod still has its magical powers, renews her resolve to learn to use magic and to try to make a name for herself and to, spread the word of how wonderful magic is to the rest of the world. That's more or less the basic setup. It's directed by Yo Yoshinari, who's, obviously very much a Trigger veteran with those shows under his belt like Gurren Lagann, Kill la Kill, Panty and Stocking, Space Patrol Luluco, and I believe he was also a Gynax vet since he also has work like Gunbuster and Evangelion under his belt.
Yeah, if you know the usual Trigger stuff, Imashi stuff, if you've seen Luluco or the more comedy comedy-styled episodes of Gurren Lagann or Kill la Kill, you know what to expect from this show, I think. for a lot of the episodes, actually for more than I expected. It's very loud, it's very cartoony, a lot of times nonsensical. Well, kinda.
Well, I
It's
mean, that's what you get from a world where, it's magical as opposed to,
yeah. And for the most part, it's still dialed back compared to Luluco, for example. It's a bit more comprehensible.
I mean, I'd say it's dialed back most to everything else, Trigger.
Yeah. But the comedic timing is good, and there's a lot of creative stuff in there. I love the episode where they go into Susie's head.
Yes.
She's also kind of my favorite character of the bunch. I also like the cool fantasy settings and environments and monsters the show has to offer. It's all very imaginative and just a lot of cool stuff to look at in that show. Yeah, but like I said, it's a lot more comedy-focused standalone episodes in this show than I expected. Like in the first 2/3, pretty much, the main story kind of only kicks into gear in the last third when the kind of obvious antagonist shows up. I don't know, were you okay with that? Did you like it? Did you appreciate that?
Well, I mean, I feel like they sort of eased their way into that because the main plot at first focuses on, oh, here's the shiny rod. What do I do with it? Oh, you have to find, 7 magic words to make it do the thing.
Yeah.
And that was, it took them a little bit to get to that, but, that was obviously, one of the big overarching plot points. And then, again, when they introduced the would-be villain, I feel like that's a good way of phrasing it. Yeah. Later on, I feel like they didn't introduce that character too late, though, because, you have some shows where it's like, oh, the true villain shows up in, like, the 10th episode of a 12-episode series, and it's kind of like, you sort of get a taste for this character.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like a bit earlier on, and it works out better.
And it's not just like it's just an antagonist for antagonist's sake. Like the character has a deep connection with another very important character in that show, and and their relationship and the conflict that arises from that all fits with the themes of the show of science versus magic and everything, and that is always brought up in the show, and always like this underlying red thread, that is woven through all the episodes, and that works. It just works. It's just even Gurren Lagann felt like, even though you learn the real final antagonist pretty late in the show, or at least in the second half of the show, feels like it had always had like a constant, I don't know, threat or danger in the looming in the background. First it being the Beast Man and Spiral King.
Yeah.
And then later the anti-spirals and everything, and then for Kill la Kill, you immediately got the student council and everything, and it was more straightforward, and I guess I appreciated that more. And just Little Witch Academia, even though you get like, oh, Akko has to find all the magic words and everything, the first like 2/3 of the show felt a lot more meandering to me. Like it's more, hey, let's have another goofy adventure with these characters, and then with that side character and that side character. It's all pretty cool character stuff. Like it's pretty hearty and everything, and they each learn about something about each other and stuff like that. Well, not always, but it's enjoyable for most of the time. But maybe I'm just, I don't know. Maybe I appreciate a more straightforward plot more, and that's why Little Witch Academia didn't resonate as much with me as the other two big Trigger shows. I guess that's one of the things that didn't work so well for me. But a lot of other things did. So.
I mean, I feel like, though, the plot was more consistent throughout because, if you go back to something like, for example, Kill la Kill, they had plot points which they kind of glossed over, looked at, and then, like, almost immediately threw away. Like, they were supposed to be, like, something about, like, an anti-life thread bullet that, like, oh, we're going to use this thing. What happened to it? Wasn't this part of your big plan? Oh, okay, all right, okay.
Yeah, and there were some, one-note villains and that were thrown away after one episode and stuff like that. That happened also a lot. I mean, there's some stuff, in Little Witch Academia where it's like, okay, this is an interesting character, and yeah, we never see him or her again too. There's one specific character that I would have liked to see more of. Who I'm talking about, that dragon dude.
Yeah.
He's pretty great, and it's like it's only this one episode pretty much, and that's a shame. But yeah, you're right. Aside from that, it feels like it's more consistent in that it's more like focused on like this array of main characters who just have their fun little adventures, and it's mostly about Akko finding into her own character and going on this journey to becoming to evolving and everything. And yeah, the other characters too, even though not as much as her.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the first Little Witch Academia. The first incarnation of Little Witch Academia was part of an initiative in Japan called Anime Mirai, Anime Future, if you don't want to be a weeb. That was based, I believe the deal was a lot of studios got like a stipend from the government to, like be able to kickstart these new projects that, they probably wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Mm-hmm. It was been going on since about 2012, and Little Witch Academia was one of the things that came out of 2013, alongside a few other shorts. One called Ryo by Studio Gonzo, one called Aruvu Rezuru, wow, trusting that 3 times fast, by Zex, and Death Billiards by Madhouse, which is a crime.
Series.
Which is a crime that we haven't had a chance to talk about Death Billiards or Death Parade, because they are both brilliant.
And it's a shame that we probably won't get a second season of Death Parade. That makes me really sad.
Yeah. But yeah, it started off as basically this one-off in 2013. And then Trigger turned to Kickstarter for Little Witch Academia, The Enchanted Parade, which came out in 2015.
Which is longer than the Anime Mirai thing.
Yeah, maybe it's like closer to an hour long as opposed to a half hour. The point is, this series is Little Witch's third outing, and I feel like it's better for it because, we already have, these established characters and setting, and I don't know if it feels right to call the series a reboot because it's kind of not.
No, it really isn't.
I feel like the original and the Enchanted Parade are more like stories that take place in medias res that aren't really explored in the series proper.
It feels like the Anime Mirai thing could be like in the first third maybe of the series somewhere, like while they're still in basic training and everything. It works. I think the Enchanted Parade OVA could be maybe even after the show is over. Like you could watch it after that. It works for certain reasons as a special epilogue thing. I think that would be maybe best.
Yeah.
Especially animation-wise, because while the animation in the show is pretty damn great, I think it in the TV series it never quite gets as good as in the Anime Mirai OVA and the Endless Parade.
I kind of feel like that might be, and this is just a hunch, they probably didn't expect Little Witch to get to the point that it did, so they are able to put in probably a larger amount of effort into those two shorts, and because they were much shorter and much more condensed than the series proper. And that's not to say the series proper looks bad, because it does not.
No, not at all. Like I said, great animation. It's just like if you have watched the Anime Mirai, Little Witch Academia, and the Endless Parade first, you have already seen the best the series has to offer in terms of animation. And even though the animation in the TV series is still great, it's not as good as in the OVA, in my opinion. It's just, it doesn't reach the highest highs, even though there's some pretty damn amazing scenes in that TV show. It's just like, man, the final thing in Endless Parade is outstanding. It's just Studio Trigger going all out. So, yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I like I said, I still think the animation in TV series is fantastic, and especially the comedy bits work really great because it's such a cartoony look and everything, and there's a lot of I don't know, a lot of transformations and everything, and that all works with the colorful look of the show. It's great stuff. It's really great stuff. And if you, I think, like I said, the OVAs take away some of the later developments in the TV series. Especially Endless Parade does. So I think you should at least watch that after you've watched the TV series. Because, there's some character constellation and the way characters behave and everything that, are built up in the series and, are already taken as kind of granted in Endless Parade. So, I don't know. You don't have to. You can watch the other two first. So did I and so did John. But I think maybe some of the stuff works better if you watch at least one of the OVAs after the TV series.
I think my only big negative takeaway from the series is that in spite of all of these moments of growth and, change that Akko has, they don't really seem to stick.
No. My Akko, that's a funny thing. Akko was actually, in general, one of the big downsides for me of the show, because she was, even for a Trigger show, she was a bit too much of a loud and grating character at times. I mean, she means well, but boy is she overzealous and, like I said, incredibly loud and sometimes downright obnoxious and kind of horrible to her friends, especially Lotte. Boy, did I constantly feel bad for Lotte in this show.
Yeah.
Man, she's such a kind girl, who's, a bit introverted and everything, and Akko sometimes pulls her out of her shell and stuff like that, and that's good. But she can be a real dick in a way, even though she doesn't mean to and doesn't notice, but she's kind of self-centered and everything. And, nobody needs or wants a Little Miss Perfect Mary Sue as a main character. That's boring. But Akko kind of leans a bit too heavy the other way sometimes. At least for me, she did. And I often caught myself muttering, "Shut the fuck up, Akko," at the screen way more times than I expected or wanted to. So, yeah, make of that what you will. Because maybe it's just not my kind of character, but she was really a bit too hyperactive for me and often didn't learn from her lessons and everything. And yeah, it's kind of like you said, it doesn't all stick. The important stuff does, at least later in the series, I guess. But early on, no, not really. I like, but I like her relation with the other characters, at least to most of them. And, the other characters in general. Pretty much the whole cast is fantastic. Like all this, even the smaller side characters. I like I said, I like Lotte and Susie a lot. I like the other three outcasts. I forgot her name. One has an incredibly German-sounding weird name. She's the tech witch.
Oh, you mean Amanda, Yasminka, and Constance?
Yeah, exactly. Those three are also great. And that's what I mean by that Endless Parade takes a bit away from some of the developments in the series, because in Endless Parade they are already like kind of part of the gang, while in the TV series they slowly are integrated and become friends with the other three witches as well. So yeah, that's why I said that Endless Parade kind of fits at least a bit later in the TV series, if not after it. But yeah, so there's that. I like those characters. I like the teacher Ursula a lot for many reasons. I think she's great. I also really liked the antagonist. I wish we had learned a bit more, about her, like even more about her past. Although we learned a lot, but still, she's cool. Great connection to one of the other characters and everything. Also cool. I I like that my nose for bad guys failed me this time around, because I expected Andrew to turn out to become, the antagonist.
I don't know about that. Like, you were saying that early on, and I was like, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and I was wrong, and I'm glad I was wrong, because he turned out to be a pretty cool character and pretty likable and everything. And, when I saw him first in the opening and everything, and the first time he and Akko meet, I was like, okay, is he gonna turn out to be like... Because, he's kind of feels like he's the son of his father, and he's gonna be the science guy, and Akko is gonna be the magic girl, and it's gonna be and since science versus magic is one of the themes in the show, that's gonna be like one of the main conflicts. But it doesn't really become that. He's kind of a semi-love interest for her, but that also doesn't really get, I don't know, resolved or even, developed, really.
You know what? I'm kind of glad for that, because even though I do watch stupid fucking rom-coms a lot, not every story needs to be that, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's true. I don't mind it, like that it wasn't in there. But they kind of try to do something with that, and then nothing really happens. I don't know which one were your favorite characters. I know it wasn't Akko.
Yeah, no. I liked Ursula a lot.
Yeah.
Because, without going into details, just the way she tried, play herself off in a very unsuspecting manner. Also,
one of the things that the, I don't know if it's Endless Parade or if it's the Anime Mirai thing, even that takes some of this, the development of her character and, her backstory and everything away a bit, and teases a bit too much for it to be that interesting of a development in the series. All the more reason to maybe watch the OVAs after the show. Just saying. You don't lose anything from by keeping those for later. But yeah, Ursula's great. Yeah, like I said, all around pretty much stellar cast. I already said that I would probably rank Little Witch Academia third when it comes to the other shows. What would your ranking be? Did you like it better than Gurren Lagann Kill la Kill? I know you're more affectionate towards your more slice of life leaning shows and everything, and comedy stuff. So was this more maybe to your liking than to the two other shows, or did you like the setting more?
I mean, I like that they were trying to do something different than what they had done previously. Obviously, the Anime Mirai project sort of came in between Gurren Lagann and Kill la Kill. Mm-hmm. So, it shows that Trigger has, the know-how to do something different than, a bombastic, over-the-top, action series. But I don't know if I'd probably put Kill la Kill first, then Little Witch, then Gurren Lagann, I think.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'd probably put Gurren Lagann, then Kill la Kill, then Little Witch Academia. But, all this sounds like, oh man, this didn't live up to our expectations. No, not really. I mean, I didn't have any special expectations for the show. It was like, okay, this is a new Studio Trigger thing. Let's see what this does. And the only thing that, I wanted from the series that I didn't get was, an earlier, more, straightforward plot-driven stuff. But that's just not what the show was. And it doesn't have to be, this down to personal preference. I'm pretty sure there are a lot of people that like Little Witch Academia the best of all those shows, of Studio Trigger's outputs. And maybe you dear listeners will be one of those people. But yeah, definitely, Little Witch Academia comes highly recommended. It's a super fun show. It's really well animated. It's really imaginative. Some great vistas in there. And goddamn, now it's finally on Netflix. So you have no reason not to watch it.
Yeah,
unless, you don't have Netflix.
I think all three are on Netflix: the series, Enchanted Parade, and the original. Yeah, I mean, if you're a fan of, obviously, if you're a fan of Trigger stuff, you're probably gonna watch this. But if you're a fan of, just really, again, their over-the-top bombastic stuff, but dialed back a little bit in comparison. It's still, very colorful, very vibrant, and a whole lot of fun. I think a lot of people can get some enjoyment out of this, not just, the niche audience.
No, it's pretty. I think it's pretty broad appeal. And that is a wrap on the 35th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jake Kaufman. Please go to vit.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. You can listen to our show on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for some interesting articles linked in our episode release posts. Leave us comments and questions on Twitter, Facebook, and our YouTube channel, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next show. Macht's gut.
Take care, everyone. Next time on Anime Brain Freeze.
The last existing human on Earth and mighty fairy folk join forces in a battle against extinction.
And then after that, we explore the trials and tribulations of writing a visual novel.